There are many questions that surround the subject of gun belts, but who is this piece of gear tailored towards? For the longest, I refused to adapt this piece of equipment into my regular training regimen, but now I find it to be essential for supporting my skill development in my shooting journey. After years of running drills, competing, and field testing gear in real-world training scenarios, I've learned a lot about what is important to me when it comes to battle belts. So in this video, we're going to discuss the concept of battle belts and why you might be inclined to investing in one. And if you stick around until the end, I will walk you through my personal belt setup. I've been asked about what I run and why, so it is only fair to share my own setup with you guys. Before we get too far in this video, I want to let you guys know that if you're just getting into firearms training, I do have an ebook called The Fundamental Range Day Guide. And within that document, you'll find a ton of drills that you can run at an indoor or outdoor range. I did my best to take all the hard work off your shoulders by consolidating all of this information in one comprehensive package. So make sure you grab this ebook if you do want to attack your fundamental skill set and see progression over time. As always, I appreciate the support you guys give me, but let's get back to the video. So what is the purpose of a gun belt? In my eyes, it plays a key role as a supporting element in your overall loadout. And what I mean by this is that you can use this belt to aid in any administrative task you deem fit. Whether it's for professional use or just for sport, you're able to piece together your belt to assist you with the execution of your desired mission. For the general public, most will see these belts on military and law enforcement personnel. And this makes a lot of sense. Their jobs encompass various scenarios, and some of these scenarios can get very dangerous very quick. But what about the everyday man? Should civilians, someone like me in this case, seek to have a gun belt? If you'd put two and two together, you'd assume where I sit on this discussion. But if I'm truly being honest, I think it really depends on the user. I know guys that strictly train from concealment. Their ideology is that they want to train how they'd be forced to fight if the circumstances were forced upon them. And I totally agree with the sentiment because I had the same thought process a couple of years ago. But fast forwarding to the present, I've taken a huge interest in different types of shooting competitions. And a lot of these matches allow you to have various forms of supporting gear. And this inevitably pushed me into looking for a belt to hold all this gear. Now, do you have to compete to have a belt? Absolutely not. Just like plate carriers and chest rigs, I believe every civilian should have a gun belt for their own personal protection. Now, how you implement this gear into your life is up to you. I know guys that have belts just to work their land or farms. Mind you, their setups are a little bit more minimal than what I have here, but they still have them. But for the majority of us, there are very few situations where it would make sense to throw one of these on. But notice I didn't say there are absolutely no situations that make sense. There will always be a chance, even if it's very small, that having a gun belt will benefit you and your loved ones. And if there's a chance, then I say prepare for it. So now that we've talked about the purpose of the gun belt, how do we go about choosing the right one for you? First, start off with what do you want to use it for? For me, I wanted something I could compete with in a wide variety of competitions, but I also wanted something that could double as a battle belt if I were to deploy it for that use. So having an attachment method like these rows of Molle were a non-negotiable for me. And just because you have all this real estate to attach stuff doesn't mean that you have to use all of it. Right here, I have my first belt that I ever purchased. And as you can see, it is much slicker than what I'm currently running. I'll get into the specifics of that later in the video, but this is just to show you the different configurations you can put together. If you're strictly going to train with your pistol and partake in competitions like USPSA, a more minimalist belt would be ideal. Belts like the double alpha belt or the howitzer battle belt comp are some pretty popular picks in the industry. And all you'll really add to those belts is your holster and extra magazine pouches. But going back to my belt, you'll see that I have pistol pouches, rifle pouches, and some other pouches for admin stuff. And having both pistol and rifle is really important to me because I enjoy PCSL 2-gun. But over the course of this year, I've had a growing interest in different types of competitions that integrate physical activity. Speaking of which, my second running gun match is coming up, so I'll be filming that for you guys again so you can see where I stand. All right, no more wasting time. Let's talk about my gun belt setup. Now there's a disclaimer that I need to share. My belt was actually sent to me to test out and review, but I want to give you my backstory because my bias towards this product actually developed 4 years ago before the company even knew I existed. If you've watched a few of my EDC videos, you know how much I rave about the Core Essentials EDC belt. Like I kind of hinted before, I've been running the same 2 Core EDC belts for over 4 years now. And as it stands, I truly believe it is one of the best belts on the market. And I guess Core came across one of my videos back in May because that's when they decided to reach out to me. A few days later, I received this belt you see here. And I'm just gonna be straight up with you guys. I am very biased towards this company due to already being a paying customer and also being very satisfied with their products. All right, so let's take a closer look at this belt. Like most belts, the Core Essentials Molle belt comes in a 2-piece design, meaning you will get an inner belt in conjunction with an outer belt. I'm a huge fan of the 2-piece design simply because of how much sturdier it feels when it's being worn. Dedicated outer belts still have their place for most scenarios, but I prefer a 2-piece belt design at the end of the day. I mentioned the Molle belts before, but as you guys can see, you will get 2 rows to use for various attachment methods that the aftermarket provides. Core claims that this belt can hold up to 20 pounds of load, and I believe it. Even with all this stuff on here, the belt refuses to sag or lose its structural integrity. Now, one of my favorite features that was actually on the Core Central EDC belt somehow made its way to their Molle belt, and that is Core's famous ratcheting system. I have to be honest, I was a bit skeptical about this initially. It's one thing to have a ratcheting system that only has to hold the weight of a pistol and a holster, but I wasn't sure if it would hold up with a significant amount of weight added to it. But this belt decided to lay all my doubts to rest and has given me 0 issues with the ratcheting system in the front. For those that aren't familiar with this feature, Core adds a track to the back of their belts, and the buckle has a built-in ratchet that locks into the many 1/4-inch notches. And with this, you're able to fine-tune your adjustments. And this allows you to have a perfect fit every time you put this belt on. And it's honestly the reason why I love this belt so much. When you get this belt, you'll be provided with everything you need to fit it to your body type. Straight out of the box, this belt will have a ton of extra material on it, and you'll have to measure it and cut the appropriate amount off so that it'll fit, like I said earlier. It's a really easy process, and the instructions are very clear and simple. Oh, and you'll have to cut the inner belt as well. All right, now that we've discussed the heart of this setup, let's talk about how I decided to configure this to my personal needs. So let me open this up so it'll make it a little bit easier to move around on the table. So up front, I have this blue Alpha Gear lanyard. The reason I got this was because for the longest, I would attach my gloves to my chest rig. But as I've gotten more and more into rifle work, having a pair of gloves on the range with you is pretty convenient. And this is because if I do end up having a pretty long rifle session, I can throw one of these on to combat a hot handguard. Speaking of the gloves, these are the Magpul patrol gloves. I don't even remember when I got these because it's been so long, but these gloves aren't too bad. Like I said, I typically use these when my handguards get too hot or if my hands get too sweaty. Moving over to the pistol pouches, these are the Wilder Tactical Urban Assault Rotating Double Pistol Pouches. Kind of a mouthful. My only other experience with pistol pouches have been with the STAT Kiwi pouches, and those work just fine. But as I'm growing in this space, I want to try different items that the market has to offer. So I ordered these after seeing some pretty positive reviews on their product line. These pouches are really cool for a few reasons. One of those reasons being that they're cantable. So I don't know if you can tell, but I do have a slight cant on these pouches to allow for a more natural draw stroke for when I'm doing reloads. But you can really get these things sideways if you want. If you notice at the bottom, there's this bungee material, and this allows you to customize the retention of these pouches. When I was in the process of doing my review for the Kimber 2K11, I was using these same exact pouches. And how I accommodated for those larger 2011 magazines was by loosening the retention just a bit so the pouch could more easily conform to the new shape. These pouches are slowly becoming my favorite, and I've had 0 issues with them loosening over time. Most importantly, re-indexing with these pouches is pretty easy. I also like the mounting system that the Wilder Tactical pouches use. They use a UAV clip system that you can just slide in between the Molle slots, and then they fasten down with a simple screw. And I think this design is genius because it makes the pouches feel very sturdy and secure on my belt. Next, we have my rifle pouches. And if the design looks similar to the pistol pouches, that's because they came from the same website. These are also from Wilder Tactical. I opted to go with 2 rifle pouches simply for competition use. It's easier to have a spare magazine on body so that if something were to happen in the middle of a stage, I have an emergency reload for my emergency reload. At first, I thought having 2 rifle magazines would be cumbersome, but with how sturdy these sit on my belt due to the UAB clips, I almost forget that I have 2 rifle mags on me at all times. All right, now we're moving on to the dump pouch. I haven't fully decided if I'm going to keep this dump pouch because I've been eyeing the Lunar Concepts shoot pouch and I really like that. I just don't know if they're going to continue to make them or not. I've noticed that they've been sold out for a while, but that's something I'm considering on replacing this with. But anyways, this is also a Wilder Tactical product. I like how compact it gets when it's not being used. And it opens up a fair amount. I mean, I do have a lot of room in there, so I don't really have too many complaints. It's just sometimes it's hard to put stuff in there if it's borderline empty. On the back, I have another Wilder Tactical item, and it is their Med Pouch 2.0. If you're training with guns, you need to have an IFAK either on you or in your close proximity. I know we take safety seriously in this community, but anything can happen. So I have some medical as well as a quick access tourniquet on the bottom. This pouch is really easy to open and close, and I really do like the feature of having quick access to a tourniquet on the bottom. And if I do need to access it, all I have to do is just pull it this way. I have my Sharpie in here from my last range session, so it's kind of blocking that, but when I take the Sharpie out, all I do is just pull one side and my shears, my tourniquet, and my glow stick come out. And again, it's really cool being able to access some quick emergency gear without having to open up your entire med pouch. But the med pouch itself, it's really simple, and I have a lot of stuff in here, gloves. I even threw an emergency blanket in here just for the sake of having one, and then some other IFAK items. Next up, I have my Multitool. I actually bought this pouch off of Amazon because I didn't want to have something too big in this area that would impede my draw stroke. But as you can see, when you bend this, when it's around your body, there's more than enough space. So I actually am debating on switching this pouch out for something like a Spiritus spud pouch. And I know that may sound crazy having a spud pouch on your belt, but I've seen a lot of guys starting to put them on their belt because they can put admin stuff in there. Sometimes they'll put water bottles. You can also put 2 rifle mags in there. Kind of work like a dump pouch without being a dump pouch. But anyways, in here I have my Multitool. This is one of the bigger ones that I have. I actually got this from my sister for Christmas. And it's just good to have a multi-tool on you because when you're out on the range and things end up breaking, it's nice to have tools that you can use to fix any problems. I could say I can fix probably like 70% of the problems that I have on the range. And lastly, we have my holster. So this is a Safariland 6390 RDS, and in it, I have my M&P 2.0. I choose to go with an active retention holster because regardless of what I'm doing, I want to make sure that my firearm is secure at all costs. I mentioned that not only do I participate in PCSL 2-gun, but I also like matches that integrate physical activity. And understandably, if your gun falls out of your holster while you're performing said physical activities, you would get immediately DQ'd from that match. So having multiple forms of retention is something that was a requirement for me. At first, I thought that drawing from a Safariland was going to be a lot harder and slower than drawing from, I would say, like a competition holster, but I soon learned that was more of a training issue. Yes, there's a larger learning curve with a Safariland, but you would be surprised with how fast you can be with these holsters given some time. I also have the nub mod on the ALS lever. Drawing has definitely become easier and more consistent with this mod. I can't say it would definitely make you faster, but it takes away the difficulty of not fully engaging the locking mechanism and just makes the whole drawing process much simpler. So if you've been holding off on getting one of these, like I was, then you're doing yourself more harm than good. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this topic of gun belts as much as I have. Gear is always fun to talk about, but remember, training is something you can't skimp on. Make sure you're dry firing and putting an effort into getting to the range a couple times a month. None of this stuff really matters if you can't use it efficiently. Let me know down below what belts you guys are running and what your mentality was when you were constructing your setup. I always find it interesting to see what others are rocking and why. Well, that's all I have for you guys today. As always, I'll catch you guys in the next one.